Underground episode 6. The episode was titled Minty, and basically it was Harriet Tubman's monologue. In this episode, I thought that we were going to see some action, but we didn't see any action. All we saw was her, her speech basically the whole way through, and it was really really good. The actress that is portraying Harriet Tubman, Aisha Hines, kudos to her, because to go ahead and do a whole episode just you talking, all the focus on you, that's a lot of pressure. But her storytelling was on point. Like, I felt like I was sitting right there listening to her talk about her struggles, everything that she went through to get to where she was at that point in time. And I broke it down into three parts. The first part, she talked about slavery, bondage, and how she started out as a child. She felt like a neglected weed, so on and so forth. The second part was getting her family to freedom, and how she didn't even know, how good it would feel once she got to freedom. And then the third part was the moves that they need to make right now as abolitionists. So let's start at the beginning. She started off by saying that she felt like a neglected weed when she was growing up, and she was talking about the different hardships that she faced when her master hired her out to different families for her to work. And she talked about her mother, and how she didn't even know how bad it was. And then she also talked about the scar on her head and how she got the scar. And she said that she was worried about her hair, and she was looking in a window trying to fix her hair, and a man was running after his slave. He had a heavy iron weight and he threw it, and it hit her. And she says that started her after. There is a time in your life, there was a before and there's an after, and her after started once she got hit by that iron weight. And after that, she began to have visions, and one of the visions was her flying free like a bird. And from, I think, then on, she felt like, well, I need to get away from here and I need to get to freedom. There was one point where she was talking about her master and how he had let her hire herself out to do work, and she had gotten sick, and so he was trying to sell her because she was damaged goods. And so she had been praying from Christmas to March to change his heart so that he didn't sell her. And I think she said March 1st, she stopped praying that he changed his heart, and she prayed that God kill him. And within a week, he was dead. And the people in the South, I guess, took that as a sign, and they all were pretty scared about his death. And they were looking to sell, I think, her and her brother, she said. And so this starts the second part, when she actually tries to go ahead and become free and move on from the plantation. And she convinced her brothers to run. And she said that was her first mistake, because she had to convince them to run. There's a lot of people, and I'm breaking off from the speech right now, there's a lot of people in life like that. You have to convince them to do something, and you really can't convince anyone to do anything. You have to make up in your mind, this is what I'm gonna do. And they didn't even get, I think she said, a mile away from the plantation before they were trying to turn back, and they dragged her back with them. And so she said that was the last time that she had to convince anybody to run, because she just had to go ahead and do things on her own. Once she finally decided that she was going to be free, and she made her way to Pennsylvania with absolutely no idea of where she was going, she just knew she had to head north, and she followed the North Star, I think, when she could see it, and she listens to the Lord's voice to guide her to her destination. But once she got there, she was all alone. And so she realized that she needed to go back and save her family. And I think that she tried to go back. Well, she talked about her niece. She was able to rescue her niece from getting sold on the block. And then she talked about her husband, Mr. Tubman. And she obviously kept the last name, but he had moved on, and he had married another woman. And not only had he married another woman, they had took up residency in the old house that her and her husband shared. And so she felt some type of way about that, and she said she dropped him from her heart But that was a sign from the Lord that she was thinking too small. She was only thinking about her and her family when she needed to be thinking about all these other people that were in bondage as well. So while she was there trying to get him, and he refused to come with her, there were others that reached out to her. And she said from then on, she would walk through the slave quarters and she would sing a song. And she began singing the song, and I think it was Let My People Go. Um, Not sure. I guess that's just an old Negro spiritual. And they knew like to look for her. And she carried her gun with her so that the people that did come, they weren't going back if they tried to go back. So then we go into the third part of her speech, which was the move or the call to arms. And this is when the audience got a little rowdy. They started arguing about um, Mr. Brown's tactics. And the first part of that was that, you know, she finally got her family free, so she was happy about that. But she felt like she was not doing enough as an abolitionist, and other people weren't doing enough as abolitionists as well. And she had a dream of, I think it was a serpent, and it was a man with a long beard. And next thing she knows, when she opens the door, I guess Mr. Brown had came to visit her. She opened the door for him, and that was the man. When she finally met Captain Brown, as she calls him in the episode, they began talking about tactics and ways that they needed to go ahead and abolish slavery. And one thing that he kept saying that she remembered was war. She said she was very surprised to hear Mr. Brown talk about his feelings for the cause and how he would stop at nothing to abolish slavery. His son had died in Kansas for fighting for the cause, I guess in a battle that they had. So he had already gave up blood for a race that was not his own. And that spoke volumes to her that they weren't doing enough. And she said that Mr. Brown intended to die fighting for the cause, and she knew, or she planned on dying for the cause as well. We're living in a world that is not changing, and there is a nationwide conspiracy, and they're saying that Christianity is backing up slavery, saying that it's right, and all these other things that simply aren't true. And she was saying that's not my Christianity. And it was just really enlightening because this is Harriet Tubman talking about slavery and the war, and this is literally like affecting what is going on in the world today. At the end, when they pretty much got into a little altercation about Mr. Brown's methods, and Lucas was saying that's the only way, she kind of leaned towards Captain Brown's methods of war as well. When Mr. Still came and told her to talk to a group of abolitionists, he said simply to tell your story, and she said her story is not over. At the end of the episode, it felt like she was talking directly to you when she said, you got to do your part. The Lord provides, and you have to find conviction in that. There are no negotiations on freedom. I think she also said something to the effect of actions and inactions change the course of history. Another thing that she said that was very important to me and that stuck out was that we make enemies of ourselves over methods, and that is so true today. It's kind of like MLK versus Malcolm X. One was saying that we need to do this by any means necessary, and then the other was saying that we need to peacefully get this done. But we all know that MLK changed that theory towards the end of his life. Her closing words were, we can't afford to be citizens in this time of war. No one gets to sit this one out. And that was powerful. Um, she's talking to everybody. She's talking to everybody in this country that we need to stand up, we need to make a change. If we see something wrong, we need to speak out. Not only speak out, we need to do something about it. So this episode was very insightful, and I think they also wanted you to know the history of Harriet Tubman. She pretty much gave you a brief life story of what it was like coming up and going through slavery. And slavery obviously wasn't the same for everyone, and they definitely showed us that, or they're showing us that over the course of this show. Um, this episode was good. It was unconventional. It was kind of different. I don't think we've seen any. I've never seen anything like that before in television. Um, the next episode, we're gonna catch up with everybody because we didn't see anybody in this episode besides Elizabeth and Lucas. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys. I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.